Nearly 10% of vehicles experience fuel system problems due to contamination. While most of these are the result of driver mistakes, shady gas stations are also to blame. In this video, I'll reveal 13 types of gasoline that can destroy your car. Engine corrosion, blown head gaskets, and damaged emission systems are just a few of the risks. At the end, I'll share the dirty little secret the EPA has been hiding from you, which could cost you over $4,000. Let's dive in. Number 13. Non-premium fuel in high compression engines. Let's begin with the most common problem, and one that leaves gas stations richer and customers crying. According to the American Automobile Association, over 16 million Americans use premium fuel when their car does not recommend it. This equates to $2.1 billion wasted and possibly billions more spent on unnecessary repairs. The problem stems from the misleading name. Premium gas is not about the quality of the fuel, but its octane rating. Regular gas has an 87 octane rating, mid-grade is 89 to 90, and premium is 91 to 94. While it is true that the higher the octane rating, the more resistant the engine is to pinging, there's more to it than that. High-octane fuel is recommended for high-performance cars or high-compression engines like turbochargers and superchargers. These engines are more prone to pinging, also known as detonation or knocking, because of the excessive pressure they create. This excess heat can cause the air-fuel mixture to detonate before the spark plug fires. This creates a shock wave that can be heard as a metallic ping. Repeated pinging can cause overheating, piston damage, and cracked cylinders. So, if you pour regular gas into a premium engine, shut it off immediately and call for a tow. Drive it, and you could be facing a $10,000 engine rebuild. If your car runs on regular, but you pour in premium, it will destroy your bank account, but not your car. However, the next mistake is not as forgiving. Number 12. Gasoline containing kerosene or paraffin. Before the EPA began regularly monitoring gas stations, many unscrupulous vendors experimented with various methods to increase their profits. One solution was mixing fuel with kerosene. Surprisingly, the results were both good and bad. Kerosene is safer, more stable, and has a higher energy density than gasoline. What this means is that a volume of kerosene has more energy than an equivalent volume of gas. The result is that when gasoline is cut with 20% kerosene, some cars experience a boost in engine performance of up to 20%. However, fuel economy also drops by about 20%. But that's not the worst part. Kerosene, or paraffin as it's labeled in other countries, has a higher flash point, so it doesn't ignite efficiently. This causes rough running, misfires, black smoke, and sudden power loss. It also causes spark plug fouling due to incomplete combustion. Unburnt fuel also damages catalytic converters, which costs between $1,000 to $3,000. And because kerosene is heavier than gasoline, it forms gummy deposits that clog fuel filters and injectors. Just like diesel, kerosene also dilutes oil, causing it to lose lubricity. This means you'll be needing a new engine sooner than you expected. Fortunately, strict regulation means it's almost impossible to find a gas station that intentionally dilutes gasoline with kerosene. So, unless you mistakenly pump kerosene directly into your car or buy from an unregulated supplier, you should be fine. However, gas stations aren't perfect, and I'll be discussing that later on. Now, let's see another example of how chasing horsepower gains can cause major problems. Number 11. Gasoline containing methanol. Long before ethanol was introduced to cars, there was methanol. Both of these are alcohols that improve engine performance. But there's just one major difference. Methanol is an engine killer. While they are both alcohols, ethanol is drinkable while methanol is toxic. It is a highly aggressive solvent that is brutal to everything in the engine it touches. Methanol dissolves non-resistant rubber and plastics pretty easily, leading to fuel leaks and component failure. Because it is hygroscopic, it absorbs a lot of water, which causes corrosion. Aluminum, magnesium, and other metals in the fuel system don't stand a chance. That means your fuel line, injectors, and even the fuel tank will be completely ruined. So, why would anyone want to put this in their vehicle? Methanol has been a popular fuel source for racers since its introduction to IndyCar competitions in 1965. Put it in your engine, and you'd be amazed by the performance upgrade. Water methanol injections alone can deliver a 45 horsepower boost. So imagine what the real deal can do. Methanol is also about the same price as premium gas, or even slightly cheaper in some areas. However, what drivers overlook is the fact that race cars have been modified to handle methanol. We're not just talking about upgrading fuel injectors, but the entire engine. So, unless you're willing to install a race car engine, never use fuel that contains methanol. If you're considering water methanol injection, you need to watch this. 13 mods that are worth it, and 5 that kill your engine. While fuels containing methanol aren't sold at gas stations, there is another product that can be just as hazardous. Number 10. Old or stale gasoline. Do you ever stop by isolated gas stations when you're on a road trip? That decision could cost you thousands in repairs, because you don't know how gas works. Gasoline has a relatively short shelf life of 3 to 6 months. While you can extend the shelf life by storing it in an underground tank, it isn't perfect. As gasoline comes in contact with air, it oxidizes and begins to degrade. This creates gummy, varnish-like deposits that cling to the fuel system and restrict fuel flow. To make things worse, old gasoline starts to lose some of its lighter hydrocarbons. As these volatile hydrocarbons evaporate, it becomes more difficult for the gasoline to ignite. Another danger with old gasoline is phase separation. This is when the ethanol in the gas absorbs water and separates from the gasoline. This creates a corrosive water-ethanol layer at the bottom of the tank. As a result, your fuel system gets clogged, which strains the fuel pump and makes the car difficult to start. Fixing this can easily cost a few $1,000s. Why? Because you got gas from the wrong station. Always get gas from a station that sees a lot of traffic. This ensures that the fuel stays fresh and isn't sitting in their tank for months. That will not only protect you from old gasoline, but also from the next nightmare. Number 9. Gasoline containing MMT. When gas stations began phasing out lead decades ago, they replaced it with MMT, methylcyclopentadienyl manganese tricarbonyl. MMT is an anti-knock agent and an octane booster that is a popular fuel additive in various parts of the world. But in the US, it's a closely guarded secret. Why? Because it can void your warranty. The first problem they cause is spark plug fouling. It leaves an orange residue that causes engine misfires and affects engine performance. Second, MMT contaminates oxygen sensors, which causes poor fuel economy and incorrect air-fuel ratios. The third reason to avoid MMT is that it leaves residues on the catalytic converter that render it useless. Anything that tampers with your car's emission system is a big red flag and a money pit. Between the damaged sensors and the catalytic converter, you could spend over $4,000. Currently, less than 1% of gas stations in the US use MMT. However, they do not state it on the pump, so you'd need to ask them directly and hope they're honest. At the end of the video, I'll share a safe way to guarantee that you never use fuel mixed with MMT and other harmful additives. Now, let's look at something that is even more rare in the US, but considerably more dangerous. Number 8. Diluted fuel. Here is something you don't need to worry about if you live in the US. However, If you rent a car while on vacation or live in other regions, you need to watch out for this ticking time bomb. Petroleum refiners and gas stations have been known to dilute gasoline with water or solvents like naphtha and even kerosene. The result is a weird chemical substance that is difficult to combust. If you've ever heard of a car that stopped working less than a mile after refueling, this is what happened. Depending on the concoction, you could experience rough running, misfires, sudden loss of power, and even stalling. And yes, it also causes a lean condition. This can cause the engine to overheat, blow a head gasket, or damage valves and pistons. Either way, you might need a new engine or a new car if the repairs aren't worth the cost. When kerosene or alcohols are used as a diluent, they can corrode or clog the fuel system. The unburnt, contaminated fuel will also destroy the catalytic converter. Recently, the Brazilian government had to shut down a massive criminal organization that diluted gasoline. A similar incident happened in Russia a few years ago that left vehicles dead in the street. Fortunately, the EPA has done a good job of stamping this out in the US. However, they're not perfect, and the next point proves it. Number 7. Water-contaminated gas. Back in December 2024, cars in Tallahassee suddenly started shutting down. After a couple of weeks, mechanics reported that this was happening because of bad gas. The source? 2 gas stations with water-contaminated gas. Unlike in the previous example, this wasn't intentional. The source of the contamination was a GATE and Circle K gas stations, and they were promptly shut down by the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, FDACS. According to FDACS, there are several reasons why this could have happened. The first is if the tanks delivering the gasoline hadn't been properly closed, so rainwater could have gotten in. However, another more likely and more disturbing cause is water contaminating the underground tanks. When there is heavy rain from hurricanes, it can infiltrate underground tanks. In other words, you need to be careful where you get gasoline after severe weather. If not, you could end up spending over $1,000 to drain and clean your engine. However, if the fuel contaminates more than the fuel system, it could be time to max out your credit card. The FDX has since reopened the stations, but warned that they only got 2 official complaints. Unless drivers report these issues, gas stations can sell contaminated fuel for days or even weeks. Sure, the station might be slapped with a $5,000 fine, but your repair bill could be worse. That is why it is crucial to only buy fuel from reputable stations. If you're not sure where to go, watch this video next. Never use these 11 gasoline brands and 5 that protect engine. Now, let's look at another engine killer that is completely the fault of the driver, not the station. Number 6. Using E85 fuel in non-flex fuel cars. Most drivers are concerned about using premium or regular gas. However, they should be more concerned about using the wrong ethanol blend. That's because putting a higher ethanol blend is almost as bad as putting diesel in a gasoline car. Every car built after 2001 is equipped to handle E10, which is 10% ethanol and 90% gasoline. However, only flex fuel cars can handle E15 or E85. Just like I revealed earlier, ethanol is hygroscopic, and it is a solvent. That means when there is too much ethanol, it attracts water that can then corrode metallic components. High concentrations of ethanol also attack non-resistant rubber and plastic, causing cracks and swells. It can also completely dissolve these parts, resulting in severe fuel leaks and failures. Ethanol also has a lower energy density than gasoline, which makes it harder to push through fuel injectors not designed for it. This then causes a lean fuel condition in non-flex fuel cars. The result is higher combustion temperatures, damaged valves, pistons, and catalytic converters. Just to top it all off, ethanol also confuses oxygen sensors, which causes incorrect air-fuel ratio readings. So, If you think using E15 or E85 will save you money, think again. That 25% reduction in gasoline costs will result in $5,000 to $10,000 worth of repairs. That is why the pumps for higher ethanol blends have different colors and warning labels. By the way, this mistake will void your warranty, and you won't be able to sue the gas station. However, you can hold them liable for the next couple of mistakes. Number 5. Gasoline contaminated with diesel or kerosene. Nearly 1 in 5 drivers have admitted to putting the wrong fuel in their car at least once. This can easily happen when you're driving a rental or aren't paying attention. However, it can also happen when fuel is delivered to the wrong storage tank at the gas station. And yes, this happens more often than you think. While underground tanks have sensors to measure the quantity and the temperature of the fuel, they can't actually detect the type. So, when fuel is delivered to the wrong tank, gas stations don't find out until cars start failing. Diesel is much thicker than gas and has a higher flash point, so it won't ignite properly in a gasoline engine. It will cause rough running, misfires, and the engine will likely stall. That's what happened to several customers who used a Tesco filling station in the UK in October. Victims spent an average of £600 or nearly $800 on repairs. But what's much worse is when you pour gasoline into a diesel engine. Even a small amount of gas will strip lubrication from the high-pressure diesel fuel pump and injectors, causing them to fail instantly. The uncontrolled detonation of gasoline also damages pistons and other critical components. Fortunately, you can sue a gas station and have them cover the repair costs. Still, your car will be out of commission for at least a day. That's better than the next problem, which is just as damaging but more difficult to trace back to the gas station. Number 4. Gasoline. With very few additives, ever wondered why big brands charge more for gasoline and diesel than smaller operations? What sets them apart, besides brand recognition, is the quality of the additives they use. The more additives in the gasoline, the more expensive it tends to be. That means if you only look for the cheapest fuel, you could be risking your car's health. Of course, the argument against this is that the EPA sets a minimum standard for additives. However, automakers have complained for decades about these standards. They claim that the recommended additive package does not do enough to protect engines from carbon buildup. What's worse is that some of these additives might not boost the octane rating enough, which is bad for high compression engines. At the low grade, meaning regular fuel, the octane rating tends to be uniform across brands. However, the mid-grade and premium can be problematic. If the additive package used by a cheaper retailer degrades too quickly, then the premium gas wouldn't be premium. I had a customer complain that their engine knocks when they buy gas from a certain cheap retailer. But when they switch to a bigger brand, no problems. At least she was lucky. You often can't tell that you're using gas with the wrong additives until your engine collapses at under 100,000 miles. At the end of this video, I'll reveal the one type of gas you can always count on. Next, let's look at another engine destroyer that hides in plain sight. Number 3. Gasoline containing microbial growth. Without a doubt, gasoline with microbial growth is the worst thing you can put in your engine. It's the biggest threat to engines because you never know it's there until it's too late. Bacteria and fungi, also called diesel fungus, grow when there is water mixed with gasoline. They sit at the bottom of storage tanks and other places where fuel is stored for a long time. There, they feast on hydrocarbons and additives, and they produce organic acid, slime, sludge, and gas byproducts. Once this gets into your car, the microbial sludge will clog the fuel filters. It will then block fuel injectors, causing engine hesitation, power loss, or rough running. The microbial byproducts also disrupt combustion and cause vapor lock when the weather or engine is hot. Finally, the acids from the diesel fungus will eat through metal and cause corrosion in the fuel tank, pump, and injectors. Unless a mechanic performs a thorough inspection, the signs are very easy to miss. You could spend thousands of dollars fighting an invisible enemy, all because you bought gas from the wrong station. Number 2. Winter-Dick Summer Blend Mix-Up. From the 16th of September, gas stations start making the switch to winter-blended gasoline. But did you know that they don't all make the switch at the same time? The EPA gives stations until the end of October to stop selling summer blends. That means if cold weather sneaks up on you, you could be in serious trouble. Besides being cheaper, the key difference between the blends is the Reid Vapor Pressure, RVP. RVP is a measure of how easily fuel evaporates. The higher the RVP, the easier it evaporates, which makes it easier for your car to start. Winter blends can have an RVP of up to 15.0 psi. For comparison, summer blends in September have a maximum RVP of 9.0 psi. When the RVP is low, the engine will start hard and run rough. In extreme cases, the car won't start at all. So if there's a snowstorm in September like Montana experienced in 2019, you'd need to find a station with winter fuel. Either that or risk being stranded in 20 inches of snow. Finally, the engine-saving secret I promised. Number 1. Non-top-tier gas. After years of frustration with the EPA's abysmal fuel additive recommendations, 6 car manufacturers came together to endorse top-tier fuel. Since then, nearly every major manufacturer has supported it. Why? Because non-top-tier gas is a money pit for consumers. Tests by the AAA showed that carbon buildup on intake valves can be 19 times higher with non-top-tier gasoline compared to top-tier gasoline. Carbon buildup can happen in as little as 10,000 miles, especially in a direct injection engine. This leads to rough idling, poor acceleration, reduced power, and poor fuel economy. When the carbon deposits get into the cylinder, it can cause detonation. This drastically increases the risk of engine damage. As a result, drivers have to spend thousands of dollars on professional cleaning every few years. If you're unlucky, the detonation can ruin your engine and leave you $5,000 poorer. The alternative is to use bottled fuel additives. Unfortunately, many of these products do more harm than good. That is why you should use top-tier gas. Toyota, Ford, Honda, and all the major German car makers recommend it for their vehicles. While it costs a few cents more per gallon, it's certainly cheaper than having to replace your engine. Now that you know the types of gasoline to avoid, you'll be able to protect your engine and save a good deal of money. However, buying the right fuel is only part of the battle. The real engine destroyer is engine oil, which is why I made this video. 9 best synthetic oils and 5 worst that ruin your engine.